There is a version of you that already exists. Yes, not in the future, not as a distant dream. Right now, in this exact moment, there is a version of you that doesn't flinch at big numbers, that moves through life knowing, not hoping, not wishing, but knowing that abundance is simply who they are. You felt that version before. Remember the unguarded moments when you were too relaxed, too present, too alive to remember you were supposed to be struggling. Listen, this feeling wasn't your imagination. That was a memory of your true self bleeding through. And this video is about learning to live there permanently. So why do I say this? To help you get there right now. No waiting. Let's start. First, some context so you know where it's coming from. In the early 20th century, a Barbadian mystic and teacher named Neville Goddard made a claim so radical that most people dismissed it immediately. He said that consciousness is the only reality, and that was not a motivational slogan about a literal statement about the mechanics of existence. Neville called it the law of assumption, and it works like this. Whatever you sincerely assume to be true about yourself and your life, your outer world will organize itself to confirm. Not eventually, continuously, right now. Not as reward or punishment, as pure reflection. Your external reality, like your bank account, your income, your opportunities, your relationships, is not the cause of your inner experience. It is the effect of your assumptions. It is consciousness made visible. The moment you genuinely absorb this, you realize something that is equal parts terrifying and liberating. You have been creating your entire life all along, every single part of it. Most people hear this and immediately think, but I don't want to struggle. Why would I create that? And that is exactly the right question. You didn't choose struggle consciously, but Neville was very precise about this. He didn't say you manifest what you want. He said you manifest what you assume. And assumption is not desire. Assumption is what you have accepted as simply true about yourself, about money, about what's possible for someone like you. You desire abundance, but if you have assumed quietly, deeply, invisibly that money is hard, that you're always one bad month from disaster, that the kind of freedom you want is for different kinds of people, then that assumption is what your consciousness is broadcasting. And your life will keep reorganizing itself to match that broadcast. Not because the universe is cruel, because Neville's law is mechanical. It doesn't judge, it doesn't punish. It simply reflects the dominant assumption back to you in physical form. So let me ask you something honest. What is the oldest belief you still carry about money? Not what you say you believe, what your decisions reveal. Do you negotiate less than you're worth because somewhere you feel like pushing might cost you everything? Do you dismiss opportunities before you've even fully considered them because some part of you has already decided not for me? Do you feel a quiet guilt around spending, even when you've earned the money, as if abundance is something you're borrowing and will have to return? These aren't personality quirks, these are assumptions. And according to the law of assumption, they are also instructions. Your consciousness receives them as fact, not preference, and then it gets to work making your outer world match them. Neville said it plainly, you are already that which you want to be, and your refusal to believe this is the only reason you do not see it. Read that again. Not, you will become it if you work hard enough. Not, you can have it if you deserve it. You are already it. The only obstacle is the assumption that you're not. Here is where Neville's teaching gets genuinely radical, and where it separates itself from every other personal development framework you've encountered. Most systems tell you to change your behavior first, take the action, build the habit, earn the result. Neville reverses this completely. He says, change the assumption first. Inhabit the identity of the person who already has the result. Become that person in consciousness, in feeling, in inner knowing, in the quiet, private experience of yourself. And the behavior, the opportunities, the outer circumstances will follow as a natural consequence. He called this living in the end. Not visualizing the end from where you currently are, looking at it like a destination far away, but mentally and emotionally occupying the end as your present reality, feeling it from the inside, moving through your day as the person who has already arrived. This is not positive thinking. Positive thinking is a thought layered on top of a contradicting feeling. This is assumption. Assumption goes all the way down. It changes the frequency your entire being operates from. And when the frequency changes, the outer world has no choice but to change with it. So how does this actually work in your daily life? Let's be specific, because Neville wasn't vague about this. He said the most powerful tool available to you is what happens in the last 5 minutes before you fall asleep. He called it the state akin to sleep, that hypnagogic threshold where the conscious mind loosens its grip and the deeper layers of consciousness become accessible. In that state, the assumptions you hold are far more impressionable. So Neville's instruction was this: in those final minutes before sleep, construct a simple scene. Not a movie, not a grand visualization, a single brief moment that implies your desire has already been fulfilled. A friend congratulating you, the feeling of looking at a number in your account and feeling completely calm. A conversation you'd only have if the thing you want had already happened. Feel it, briefly, fully, and then sleep inside that feeling. You're not asking for something. You're not hoping for something. You are assuming, impressing upon the deepest part of your consciousness that this is simply who you are and what is true. Neville called this revision when applied to the past, and living in the end when applied to the future. But really, they are the same act, choosing deliberately which assumption your consciousness will operate from. Now here is the layer that most people miss when they first encounter the law of assumption. They focus on the thing they want, the money, the number, the outcome. But Neville consistently pointed to something deeper than outcomes. He pointed to identity. Because the reason a wealthy person has wealth is not that they attracted a specific sum of money. It's that they have assumed an identity. The identity of someone to whom money naturally flows. Someone whose relationship with abundance is easy, unremarkable, expected. The money is just the outer echo of that inner identity. So the question is never really, how do I get more money? The question is, who am I assuming myself to be? And if the honest answer is someone who struggles, someone who tries hard but can't quite break through, someone for whom the big life is always one more obstacle away, then that is the identity your consciousness is currently living from. And that identity is generating your results reliably every day. Here is the shift Neville is pointing to. Stop trying to attract money toward the person you currently assume yourself to be. Become, in consciousness, the person for whom abundance is simply natural. The person who doesn't need to chase money because they've assumed the identity of someone money finds. Not arrogance, not delusion. A clean, internal, private decision about who you are. I want to say something that might be uncomfortable. Most of the limitations in your financial life right now are not caused by the economy, your background, your education, or your timing. They are caused by an identity you accepted before you were old enough to question it. You absorbed what the adults around you believed about money. You took on the financial identity of the household you grew up in. You learned whether money was safe or dangerous, scarce or available, something you had to fight for, or something that simply moved through life. And then, because this is what human beings do, you stopped questioning it and started living it. Neville would call this a false assumption. Not false because it's optimistic, false because it was never yours to begin with. It belonged to someone else's consciousness, and you inherited it without signing for it. You can give it back, not through years of therapy or decades of work, through a single act of conscious revision, choosing right now to inhabit a different assumption about who you are and what you're available for. This is the law of assumption applied not to a goal, but to the self. And when the assumption of self changes, every goal downstream of it becomes accessible in a way it simply wasn't before. There is a version of you that already exists. Neville would say that version isn't waiting to be created, it's waiting to be assumed. It exists right now in what he called the fourth dimensional state, already complete, already abundant, already living the life you want. The only reason you're not experiencing it in your three-dimensional reality is that you haven't yet assumed it as your present truth. The moment you do, the moment you genuinely, fully, in your feeling body, assume the identity of the person you want to be, your outer world begins its reorganization, not as magic, as law. The law of assumption, the most powerful law Neville Goddard ever taught. And it is available to you right now. Not when things get better, not when the evidence arrives. Right now, in this consciousness, in this body, in this moment. Tonight, in those last minutes before sleep, try something. Don't ask, don't hope, don't visualize from the outside looking in. Instead, just be. Be the person who already has what they want. Feel the specific quiet feeling of it, the relief, the ease, the complete absence of the fear that has followed you for so long. Hold that feeling. Let your consciousness impress it, and then sleep inside that assumption. Not once, every night, until the assumption becomes so natural, so deeply held, so much you that your outer world has no choice but to catch up. So, let's do it. Change your world starting today. That is the law of assumption. That is Neville's gift for you. Take it and use it. If this opens something in you, comment below, like and subscribe to our channel. There is so much more.